Marc Berman of the New York Post with Armen Levack on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. Marc has been getting you ready on the New York Post all week long for tonight's NBA draft lottery. And Marc, can you put into words tonight at 8:30 on ESPN how big of a night this is for the New York Knicks franchise?
Yeah, well, I've been getting Knicks fans prepared since January, actually, the moment Phil Jackson made those trades.
That's fair.
It was all about May 19th. And, you know, as I wrote in the Post today, definitely the biggest night in 2 years, May 18th, 2013, when the Knicks got eliminated by the Pacers in Game 6 in Indiana. And that set this free fall. And the Knicks have been irrelevant ever since that night. And tonight, they have a chance to be relevant again if they could get lucky and get one of the top two picks. I feel Okafor and Towns are, as Phil Jackson likes to say, they can move a franchise. When you have a big man to build around and to pair with Carmelo, I think it could be a wonderful thing. I don't know enough about Moutier, the point guard. D'Angelo Russell looked like a decent prospect, but I feel a big man, especially in a triangle, I think that could really change the Knicks and their fortunes and be a big momentum boost for free agency when they're recruiting free agents and say, hey, we got Towns and Carmelo to build around.
Wow.
So a gigantic night. They need the ping pong balls to fall their way. If they fall to 5, it's going to be a big disappointment.
So, Marc, if they literally, are we thinking even if they fall to 3, it then becomes kind of, a lottery again to see whether or not they're successful tonight?
Yeah, well, if they fall to 3, they have to hope that the Sixers are one of the first 2 teams, and maybe they pass on one of the 2 big guys and take one of the point guards, Russell and Moutier. You know, the Sixers have the big men and Nerlens Noel and Embiid, who hasn't yet played, but that's the thing. I think at 3 they could be in good shape if it's Philadelphia. I think most other teams it's going to be Towns Okafor. I think they're going to be the top 2 picks, or Okafor Towns, whichever order you want to choose.
Marc Berman of the New York Post for the Knicks. It's Towns Okafor. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's no doubt that they consider Towns more of a two-way player. He could be a monster on defense as well as on the offensive end. I think Okafor is going to be a great player too. And, he's 19 years old. And, yeah, there was some low energy in his defensive game. But speaking of his camp and to some scouts, he did have an ankle injury late in the season. He wasn't practicing. He was trying to stay out of foul trouble. So I think he didn't give the same type of effort on the defensive end that he'll have to give in the NBA, because he's not going to stay on the court in the NBA if he can't defend. And I just thought that in that championship game, I was surprised Coach K was, even in the final minute, he was in foul trouble, but by then the fouls didn't matter. You got to have him on the court. And Coach K was pulling him for defensive reasons late in that game in the championship game, and that kind of was a little alarming to me. But, yeah, it's Towns Okafor on the Knicks board right now.
And if they do fall to 3, Marc, and those 2 guys are gone, it's kind of a crapshoot as of today, right? Russell, Moutier, Porzingis, Winslow, not really sure.
Right. I mean, I think the point guards are clearly higher on their board than that European guy that you mentioned. I think he's a little too far away, maybe a couple of years from being an impactful NBA player. Carmelo is no youngster. They like this guy to come in and contribute. But Moutier and Russell, this is a neat position. Jose Calderon had a terrible season, and he was hurt most of the year. His Achilles definitely was a lingering thing ever since training camp. But they need better point guard play, or lead guard play, as Phil would put it. So I think Russell and Moutier would be there. Winslow is a fine player. It's just he's kind of like a Carmelo Anthony position. I think it's a little repetitious. I think they'd rather have a point guard.
Marc Berman of the New York Post, a must follow on Twitter, especially on a day like today, at @NYPost_Berman. And if you're really smart, you'll have your tweets sent to your phone like I do. So, Marc, Emmanuel Mudiay, he went to China and played there last year, kind of an unprecedented move. You had the opportunity in a very rare interview, rare setting yesterday, to speak to Emmanuel Mudiay. How much of a mystery is this kid because he played on the other side of the world?
I mean, Emmanuel thinks he possibly could have been the first pick in the draft if he played college and, was seen by everyone in the United States. But, yeah, he was in Times Square. He was at an appearance at a sporting goods store, and we got a chance. I haven't seen him interviewed in a long time, and he had some great stuff to say about the Knicks in New York City and how he feels that the best thing he does is make others better, which is what you want a point guard to do. He's not a very good shooter. He's got an explosiveness to the basket. He's 6'5". He's, big, athletic, but no one's seen him. He played for a team called Guangdong or something like that and lost in the semifinals. He also got hurt. He hurt his ankle. He missed a couple of months. So his claim is, listen, everyone saw me in high school and everyone saw me at AAU, referring to the college scout, the NBA scouts.
Sure.
So he's not totally foreign. He should have went to SMU with Larry Brown. He has no regrets. He said it's prepared him better for the NBA with the travel and the shot clock and playing against grown men. So, he thinks he's very well prepared, but the American public basically have not seen him play.
Now, Marc, I read that the Knicks were going to work out Willie Cauley-Stein. Is that due diligence, or is there a chance that they pick and trade?
Well, I mean, if they fall to 5, I think Willie Cauley-Stein is not a bad 5th pick for what Phil is talking about having the new age, big man who can guard extreme parts of the floor, really quick, active, not just hanging around in the paint. And that's what Cauley-Stein does. And offensively, he looked like he could be a liability in the NBA, but again, with all these pick and rolls and lobs to the rim, maybe he could be a DeAndre Jordan, just maybe a better free throw shooter. So I think he's a decent 5th pick, but yeah, if they want to fall back, Cauley-Stein, it could be there at 8. So that's definitely a great situation if they can fall back, still get a Stein, and then get another asset, including maybe a late first-round pick. They would love to get a second first-round pick in this draft. They don't have one in 2016, so they would love to have 2 first-round picks.
Marc, you've been around the Knicks organization as much as the media is allowed to during the offseason. What is the vibe this offseason around the Knicks? Is it optimism, or a lot of people just down and out still? What's the vibe right now?
Are we talking about the Knicks fans or Knicks management?
Management, the organization, the players, just kind of the vibe around the franchise.
No, I mean, they got through the worst season in history. It was a misery being around the club through January, February, March, April. But once it ended, it was completely looking at the future and forgetting about what had just transpired. And there's a genuine excitement. Derek Fisher can't wait to meet the draft guys, but also the free agency is really the big deal. There's so many free agents out there, so many different options, and, the scouts are excited, and, they're trying to go to playoff games and show their faces with these free agents so they get to know them a little bit. It's all about the future, and it's like last season did not exist.
Marc, what were your thoughts of Phil Jackson, tweeting out the kind of mockery of the three-point teams, considering the fact that, as you put it, his team has been out of it since January?
Yeah, I wonder about some of these tweets of who's making the tweets. I didn't even write about it that particular night because I didn't understand where he was coming from, why he was doing it. His basic point is, we play the triangle. It's not a three-point shooting offense. We don't believe in having a three-point shooting offense. And look at some of these three-point shooting teams struggling a little bit in the playoffs. But it was too early to even make any conclusion. As it turned out, the teams in the Final Four all shoot the three-point shot. And Derek Fisher is has the same stance. You win by getting to the foul line, by penetrating, by playing an inside game. It goes against the grain of what's happening in the NBA. And the three-point shot has become huge. And the Knicks continue to deny it. And, maybe when they'll have a real low-post force, like an Okafor, maybe it will be effective. But last season, they were very inefficient offensively, shot too many two-point shots.
Marc Berman of the New York Post on Twitter at NYPost_Berman, NewYorkPost.com right now. His many articles, as he said, over the last 5 months, detailing tonight's events. And if you're a praying man, everybody may want to throw up some prayers because the Knicks need that one or two spot.
We need a frozen envelope. We need a frozen envelope.
They need that one or two. And Marc Berman will be cheering on with everybody else tonight, hoping that's the case. Marc, have fun tonight. Enjoy it. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, anytime, guys. Thanks so much for having me on again.